Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register. Full disclosure, Tyler producing this one for the first time. Seems to be going well so far.
Are
12
we are we
seconds.
on air?
12,
We are. So
12 seconds in, 17 seconds. Successful. A successful day for the Hawk Central podcast and a successful day for the Iowa offense. Obviously, the Iowa defense and special teams come through as always. Really the best three-phase game we've seen from the Hawkeyes all year. 22-0 against a very good Rutgers team, Tyler. We were kind of looking at each other throughout the second half in particular, like, my gosh, this offense, even sometime in the first half. What do you kind of make of I don't know what you want to call this, but it was definitely the most complete game of the year for the Hawkeyes.
it was the most comfortable Deacon Hill has looked, I think, in his Iowa career. He seemed to kind of have a presence in the pocket, a steadiness, a poise that he has really lacked, and his throws were on target. I mean, he was making good throws. He was getting in a rhythm that we really haven't seen him, where it was stringing together multiple completions. And let's not like overblow this and say like the offense is fixed, like Iowa is.
It's fixed. It's fixed. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Like the offense is it's still not good, but that's progress. To say the offense is not good, like there were flashes where it looked competent, where it felt like it got into a rhythm, and that's something that, I mean, just has basically not been there since Cade McNamara got hurt. And even when Cade McNamara was healthy, it still was really lacking. But it just felt like the pieces of the offense were kind of coming into place in a way that hasn't, since Deacon Hill took over. And like I said, again, offense is not fixed for good. The long-term issues, still need to be figured out. This doesn't by any means guarantee that Iowa won't go out and score 6 points next week, but it was a very encouraging sign of life, a sign of a life for an offense and for Deacon Hill that just so badly felt like it needed it.
21 first downs. That's its season high for the Hawkeyes. 11 possessions today, 0 3 and outs. They scored 19 points in the second half alone. 402 yards. That's the most. I've been touting that stat for a while. They hadn't hit the 400-yard mark since 2021 at Maryland. That was a 51-14 win back in, I believe it was October 1st, 2021. It was a Friday night game in Maryland. So they had gone 31 straight games without reaching the 400 mark. They hit it today, 402 yards, even with the kneel down. I was a little bit worried Deacon was going to take a deep kneel down and fall back under that 400, but he didn't. Intelligently made a 1 yard kneel down. Hawkeyes finished with 402. And then at 20 for 31 passing for Deacon Hill, 223 yards. And he was 1 for 5 for 1 yard to start. So I was just like, Mason Richmond had a great quote. He was like, oh man, first half, same old offense. Second half, whoa. That's what he said. Let me do the math. So that means Deacon Hill finished 19 for his last 26 for 222 yards. And I'm not going to say that was too fluky. His passes were pretty darn accurate today. A few overthrows on deep shots, but, obviously the interception, I wrote a little bit about that. But it was interesting, wasn't it, Tyler, that multiple guys said even that drive that ended with an interception, they gained momentum from that drive going into the locker room.
And like, if you would have been told before the season that I was going to be in the thick of a Big Ten West race and Deacon Hill is going to be throwing a 50-plus yard pass to Zach Ortworth, what would have been going through your head? And I think that, one, it's just like this offense is just it. This is what's left. Like, this is kind of the bare bones. There's been so many injuries. Cade McNamara, Eric All, Luke Lachey, Deontay Vines was out today. And there's just been so many moving pieces. And this is what it's left with, but it's still fighting. It's not, for as bad as it has been up to this point, it's still fighting. And I think, that's all you can really ask for at this point of, an offense that it would be really easy. Given everything that's happened, given the Brian Ferentz news, it would be really easy for Iowa's offense to just kind of pack it in for Deacon Hill just to say, whatever, this is just how it's going to be. He's not ready yet to play at this level. But for him to show the resilience, for this offensive unit to show the resilience, and then to at least like see some of that tangible results. Like I think that was a big thing of just a confidence booster of being able to see results on the field. I just felt like it was massive, and it felt good for them, which I feel like it was just so badly needed for, how bad the offense had been. And it just gives a little bit more optimism. Like, okay, maybe this offense can be not good, can be okay at some points. Maybe it can do enough because we haven't even mentioned Iowa's defense, but they've been incredible.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to call up that drive I was talking about because Nico Regaini talked about, Deacon was slinging it to a lot of different guys on that drive. So it started 6-yard pass to Ostrenga. Next play, maybe Hill's best throw of the game, a 21-yarder to Seth Anderson. It was a rope. And then 11 yards to Regaini. Then a few incompletions, but then 13 to Ostrenga on 3rd and 10. And then 11-yard pass to Caleb Brown is a really nice play. So he goes 5 for 7 for 62 yards on that drive, and it was just kind of building off. I feel like the end of that Northwestern game where Deacon Hill ran the 2-minute offense effectively. Like I was as surprised as you were that they moved down the field and had the chance to score. Obviously, didn't turn out, but I think that was what was nice too, is just spreading it around. Did you mention the rushing yards?
No, I did not.
So yeah, you end up with now Leishon looked like he got dinged up, but it might have been cramps. It looked like cramps from what we saw. Did not return. But Leishon Williams, 13 carries, 63 yards. Caleb Johnson, 10 carries, 54 yards. Jazz Patterson, 14 carries, 53 yards. And then Caleb Brown, his best game as a Hawkeye, 2 carries, 20 yards plus 3 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. Boy, that would have had to be a really nice touchdown for him to get for the Ohio State transfer. And then on top of that, Addison Ostrenga, 8 catches, 47 yards. Nico Regaini, 4 catches, 48 yards. I'm almost positive those are both season highs. And then even Leishon Williams had 2 catches for 24. So the nice thing is also, Tyler, is a lot of guys got to kind of taste some success on offense today. And you could even throw the offensive line in there. Logan Jones starts, only plays 1 series. Tyler Ellsbury comes in yet again, fills in phenomenally. I feel like there's an argument there that he could be the starting center going forward, but or at least part of the line. And then Rusty Feth and Nick DeYoung alternate at left guard. So you had 7 different offensive linemen playing. It worked out. I didn't see any other significant injuries occur today, so that seems to be a plus. So I feel like that's also a confidence booster. Kirk Ferentz said it afterwards. These guys needed confidence in a bad way, and they got some today.
And Caleb Brown, you mentioned him, but he took another step after that Northwestern game because that was his first catch as an Iowa Hawkeye. Came in a huge moment on that drive that ended up setting up the Drew Stevens game-winning field goal. But that felt just like to be able to have that catch, to get that out of the way, and then to be able to build off of that into this week where he scores a touchdown and it seemed like Iowa was making a concerted effort to get him the ball. They handed it off to him. I think they ran like a screen for him as well. So, getting the ball in some of your best playmakers' hands is a wild concept, I guess, but that's seemingly what Iowa tried to do, and it works, especially for a guy like him that has so much talent. Get the ball in his hands, and I think it's also worth. You mentioned the offensive line a little bit, but the credit that they should be given because of all of the kind of shifting pieces they have had to deal with because of the injuries. I thought they did a really good job, not only protecting Deacon, but also opening running lanes. Even that first drive, Leishon, there were holes open for Leishon, and especially for a group that, among a offensive unit entirely that's been under scrutiny, that offensive line, earlier in the season was as well, but has seemed to kind of figure it out. I think Rusty Fett seems like has just been a huge addition, or has proven to be a huge addition for that group. So, credit to them, because Rutgers wasn't Rutgers. I honestly thought Iowa was going to lose this game coming into it. Rutgers was leading Ohio State at halftime last week, and their only 3 losses coming into today were Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Michigan. And so, they
threw pick sixes in all 3 of those games. So,
and Iowa made them look bad. Iowa was clearly today by far the better team.
Yeah, definitely. Where was I going to go with this? 16 out of 17 November wins now. I wrote about that last week after the Northwestern game. This team continues to show resiliency in the month of November. Obviously, we kind of buried part of the lead here, clinching a share of the Big Ten West title. Can win it outright next week at Kinnick Stadium. Hawkeyes at 5-2 in conference play, and the next best team in the West now 3-4 in league play. Illinois coming to town next week. I guess we should talk about the defense just a little bit here. 127 yards. That was the fewest by a Big Ten team since 2019 against Rutgers. 125 yards in that game, but that was a terrible Rutgers team. This Rutgers team was legit. They came in with the 11th ranked defense in the country. That's what makes the 402 yards that much more impressive. Steve Stylianos was out today, so Iowa down 3 of its top 4 tight ends, and Zach Ortworth with the big catch. Really wasn't, we saw no Cooper DeJean snaps on offense. I think he was kind of limited in practice this week, perhaps. So that probably contributed to that. But just overall, a different number 3 shined on offense. But defensively, let's talk about Quinn Schulte maybe for a sec, because you were asking some questions about him. It was really cool to hear the answers about Quinn Schulte, who ends up recording Iowa's first turnover since Sebastian Castro's interception to clinch the Wisconsin game way back about a month ago. So that was Iowa's first turnover in 12 quarters. But everyone seemed really happy for Quinn.
He seems like one of those guys that's just his importance is overlooked and not appreciated enough, because he's a safety. He's kind of in the back line of that defense, and really, if he's getting a lot of attention, it means all the guys in front of him aren't doing their jobs. And Iowa's defense has been so good that he hasn't needed to save a lot of things. And there's so many. I mean, Sebastian Castro emerging, the way Jay Higgins has played, Nick Jackson, Cooper DeJean. It just seems like Quinn Schulte just kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and the pick just kind of gave a window into, being, I think, just shedding a light on his importance on the defense and maybe what he does when he's not intercepting it, what the importance that he has to this defensive unit. And I mean, this defense, it felt like early on in the season was kind of still, it was still really good, but there was a drop off from last season. The last few games have just been outright dominant. The defense is seemed to be playing basically at the level it was last season. They've only allowed 1 touchdown in the last 4 games, and it's actually
that was a 22-yard drive, right?
Yeah, and it's incredible that Iowa somehow isn't 4-0 during that. They lost one of those games without they didn't even allow a touchdown in. But no, I mean the defense. This is where, and I don't want to look too far ahead because this was one good game from the offense. I guess if you would even qualify it as good, it was an improved game from the offense.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I'm gonna say it was really good.
Yeah, it was good. Okay,
yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was improved. I don't know. Anyways, what could this was what Iowa looks like with a elite defense and an offense that can make some progress like this. If you wanted to see of what does it look like if Iowa can kind of get things going on offense and be a really good defense, this was a great display of that. And it makes you wonder of what if it can continue to get better? What if they can sustain this? It makes you wonder of how good Iowa could actually be. And again, I don't want to get ahead of myself too much, and because this was, again, it's very small sample size. The sample size of it not looking like this is much larger than it is, but tangible results, and you kind of wonder, like, well, what if Iowa can continue to build off of it?
Yeah. Remember the game in Happy Valley that we covered? 97 snaps. Let me call it. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had that right. 97 snaps for Penn State in that game, 33 for Iowa. This is crazy to me. I just realized this stat. Iowa runs 77 plays on offense. Rutgers runs only 41 plays on offense. Hawkeyes hold the ball for 38-22. So, yeah, I mean, the defense gets a ton of credit for that, but so does the offense because it wasn't coming off the field. This is Iowa punts only 3 times. Rutgers punts 9 times. I mean, this was not a big game for Torrey Taylor, but he was great on his 3 punts. I mean, flipped the field, when he needed to. So really just a complete performance all the way around. A lot of the guys credited the D line. Kyle Monungai only 39 yards on 13 carries. This is the Big Ten's leading rusher. That was a concern coming in, was stopping Rutgers' run. And it seemed like they were moving right away. And I want to give a huge hat tip to the fans here because they had 3rd and 2 at Iowa's 37. This is after Drew Stevens missed field goal. You're thinking, oh, boy, here we go. Rutgers looks like they're legit. 2 straight false starts, 2 of the 6. I'm going to say forced by Kinnick Stadium. I mean, I'm going to give them a lot of credit for those. And also want to give them credit for a bad snap that the quarterback didn't see coming that ended up being a minus, 17 or something like that. So all that added up to a great defensive performance. The crowd, the lack of plays, and obviously the defense being the defense.
It was great energy, I feel like, but in general, just from the crowd. And I don't want to hand out too many, unnecessary praises or overpraises or whatever, but I think it's just worth mentioning, Brian Ferentz, obviously, not coming back as offensive coordinator next season. We haven't talked to him, he hasn't spoken with the media or anything, but for him to I guess just continue to stick with it and try to help this specific team as much as he can, knowing that he's not going to be back next season. I think he deserves some credit for that. And again, Iowa's offense has mostly not been good. This was one performance, but it is a difficult situation for him to be in, and to see to be able to see that Iowa's offense is making progress in the small way that it is. I think it's notable of just to at least acknowledge the fact that, if you're going to criticize him for the downfalls of the offense, then he should get some praise when they do have a good performance.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It was a well called game, good game plan. It's clear he had an idea of where the weak spots could be. Iowa runs for 9 yards and 24 yards on the first 2 plays of the game. Kind of got that running game established. Then they threw the ball quite a bit, more than I expected him to. I mean, to throw it 31 times, that's going to help going forward too. Teams now, hey, maybe we can't completely sell out on the run. Now they could, Minnesota could, and they did, and it worked. But this is going to help Deacon. It's going to help Caleb Brown. It's going to help Addison Ostrenga now that he's entrenched as the tight end. Nico, even a 6th-year senior, getting some confidence there. And certainly all 3 running backs contributed. It was good to see Caleb Johnson get a little taste of success there in the second half and show some big runs. And just a lot of good stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with handing out praise today. Like to hit some 3-word headlines, but any other thoughts on this Big Ten West race? I mean, it's such a treat for this team to get to come home next week to potentially, outright clinch the division, clinch a trip to Indy. They can do that right here next Saturday, 2:30. The second half again will be under the lights, which I think is a huge advantage here at Kinnick.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to kind of, because obviously this is my first year on the beat, but listening to the context behind, I guess, Kirk Ferentz's ability to kind of rally the troops and have guys respond to adversity. I feel like that's been, just another really overarching theme this season, is that there's been so many things, whether it be the sports wagering investigation, that Noah Shannon's still ineligible, and Kirk Ferentz feels unfairly ineligible, to the Brian Ferentz news, to the injuries, to the Cooper DeJean punt return touchdown that was reversed. There were just a lot of, to the Penn State game even, where I was basically embarrassed. Like, there just were a lot of chances for Iowa to quit, to pack it in, to call it a season in an underwhelming Big Ten West, and basically just kind of fit in with everyone else. Instead, I think the resilience in the way that Kirk Ferentz has been able to get guys to continue to buy in, even through tough times, is impressive.
Sorry, I was on mute. Let's run through some of these three-word headlines. Let me say that again. Let's start with Gabe Johnson, one of our favorites. Offered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Nice job, Gabe. Offered 10 headlines. Couple of them here. Stock up, Indy, and shrimp cocktail, please. A couple downtown Indianapolis references.
St. Elmo's.
Yep. Yeah. Good call, man. Yeah. You know your Indianapolis.
I know the landscape, man.
That's right, man. So I guess on the stock up Indy thing, I think we got another one there of similar to that of a fridge opening with a bunch of Busch Light GIF. I think the fan energy is kind of, there's just an air that was different today. And I think just the resolution of the Brian Ferentz thing, I think really allows everyone fan wise to enjoy this more, those that didn't want him back, because I think there would be a lot of pockets coming out of this game, Tyler, to be like, oh boy, now they're going to bring Brian back, but there's not that. It was just full-fledged enjoyment. At least what I sensed from, and I'm seeing that in the headlines too. Like, it's people really enjoyed this win. And I feel like as much as Kirk Ferentz hates it and, they're fighting this a little bit, I do feel like it does it just lets everyone know what's going on and just play. And I am impressed with Brian Ferentz's continued professionalism to handle this too.
And it almost felt like a weight, a weight off the shoulders, maybe, from the fan base, but being able to reflect on it now for, a little bit more time since the initial news hit, I feel like after that, the initial aftermath of it, where it was kind of just chaos, I guess, I feel like now it feels like things have settled in. Like now, after that initial shock and, all the, talk about it and stuff, now it feels like that, things have settled in, and maybe, that was a good decision to be able to kind of alleviate some of that stress. I think that's where the decision and timing of it was tough, of like, that's throwing sort of another challenge into the season. But once you get past that initial week and initial news conference, then you might be able to kind of move past it, and it's going to relieve some of that pressure. So that was kind of I think the balance of it. But now it feels like the fact that Iowa has been able to kind of overcome it and move past it, it feels like some of that pressure has been lifted.
I think so. I don't know if Kirk Ferentz would ever admit that, or any of the coaches would admit it, but I think there is a little bit of freedom to even knowing what's going to happen, even if it's bad, from your own standpoint or whatever. Sometimes it's just better to know, and then you live your life, accordingly. So I could probably take that whatever level you want. Michael O 2016 says pretty damn fun, kind of along that theme. Dirk Heiler at Flybum62 says Hawks getting better? ? Yeah, Kirk Ferentz talked a lot afterwards about how he believes you can improve every week, even week 9, week 10. He believes improvements can be made, and Don't doubt the guy. He just tied Bo Schembechler today for number 3 all-time Big Ten conference in wins with 194 here at Iowa.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add. But they just shut off the lights here at Kinnick. So
yeah. Is that a hint?
no.
Yeah, Brad Gust says, "Was that Iowa?"
Yeah. Apparently, Mason Richmond was kind of surprised too in the second.
Yeah, he had some funny quotes. John Rittenberg, complimentary football works. Really, very true, John. We saw it kind of flip, especially when the offense can move the ball a little bit. Then your punting and defense really takes over. And Richmond had a good quote. I might put it in my follow column, but about how no, I think I put it in my thoughts column. Just how it seemed like Cooper was catching every punt around the 50-yard line in the second half.
You could just feel to post game talking to the guys on the offense, just the optimism. More to be able to have a game like that, because to his credit, Deacon Hill has stood up there and answered question after question of why he has been so bad and why the offense has been so bad. And we kind of have to ask that because that's what's happening on the field. You can't really sugarcoat it if you're not barely even throwing for 100 yards in a game. But you could feel with Nico, with Caleb Brown, with Deacon, it was a different tone, a little bit of optimism, being able to answer questions in a positive manner. You could just kind of feel it after the game.
Hawkerella did a 2-word headline, but I like the headline. She goes, "Fires remorse," and then she puts "just kidding" in parentheses. So that was pretty good. Kirk Burner, here's Kirk Ferentz's burner, which has 39 likes so far. Says, "We're so back."
I kind of wish I wonder what Kirk would be like on social media. I sometimes think about that, the coaches that are so lasered in, just to see some of the memes. I would love to see their reactions to it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find many more good ones here. Stephanie Stitcock says, "Night night Scarlets." I like that one quite a bit. Squirman says it is Kirk Vember. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. It is Kirk Vember.
Parents Vember.
We need something else there. Something.
That doesn't sound as good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right, but still, get the sentiment.
It's with Tom Izzo. You have Tom Izzo March.
Yeah.
It's Anyways, I'm in basketball. I'm transitioning to basketball mode with basketball season starting. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just leave it at that. Here, how about this? Let's finish with this. Jared McNeil says, "Deacon Hill game." I mean, definitely. I've been hard on Deacon Hill. Most people have, but yeah, he's the nicest guy in the world. I was really happy for him. He seemed genuinely really happy today after the game, and says he doesn't look at the social media, all that stuff. Credited Spencer Petras for I thought that was a notable comment for kind of guiding him, to handle criticism, because he knows it's out there. You have to know it's out there. So kudos to Deacon Hill. Like you said, doesn't mean he's a rock star quarterback, but really good games today. Deserves a lot of credit.
It's something to build off of, and that's really not something Iowa's offense has had. Maybe if you look at what they did against Western Michigan, but that was so long ago. But this is something that you feel one, builds confidence, but is also a foundation of, can you continue to build off of it? And hey, here's some film of some things you did really good, and you can look at that and continue to try to. I think Nico, was talking about just stacking it, continuing to build off of it. And it is later in the season, but it's better late than never for the offense. So
Illinois, next week's opponent, Tyler, against your Hoosiers, gained, I got to get it accurate here, 662 yards with 507 yards through the air.
That was a low blow for bringing that up.
I mean, well, that's Iowa's next opponent.
Yeah,
So
no, I know. No, but yeah, Indiana beat them. So
yeah, Indiana had 29 first downs and lost.
Yeah, so I feel after this performance against Rutgers, I feel confident that Iowa, especially at home, I feel like the crowd is just going to be like juiced up for that game, knowing that they can clinch the West. To be able to do that in Kinnick, Illinois, they've been kind of like rocky, haven't they? I think like been up and down in terms of.
Yeah, they're on the surge though. I mean, they beat Minnesota last week, beat Indiana.
But their quarterback is a backup too. That played today.
Yeah, he threw for 500 some yards.
But also, I was watching some of the game and like Indiana's defensive backs, or on one play, the Indiana defensive back just like decided not to cover the wide receiver, and he literally just ran right by him. So like, some Indiana's defense was bad. So I'll just say that's part of why they scored so much and whatever.
Yeah, understood. Well, thanks, Tyler. Good job. Let's get this podcast out on audio as well. But good job today. I'm gonna go write my column and then head out. Thank you, Hawk fans, for tuning in. I'm glad you guys could enjoy a really fun game today. And I guess we'll say goodbye. For Tyler Tachman, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, saying so long from Kinnick Stadium.